I'd like to ask a question to Lars about IDSA. You were talking about connections with the United States, China. Is there any risk of, let's say, influencing our system by American actors or Chinese actors in terms of forcing certain issues, making data public or available to American institutions? Or is there any geopolitical and political risk in this kind of connection?
The risk in life is that you will probably die, right? So my core belief in what we are doing is that we have a thriving global economy that is based on, well, data sharing with everyone, everywhere. We've seen a lot of organizations stepping in and making use of something for their benefit, and that is what we should try to avoid. And here I also ask, like, who is we? So we obviously, so you speak as a European. So would an American or Brazilian or a Chinese ask the same question? I think so. That is how we interpret our role. Is we should find something where everyone could benefit in order to have economic success, and so like the internet. So most of the internet is good, while we also know that a lot of bad things have happened through the internet. So that will lead us to a lot of questions, philosophical and political nature. What we can avoid is that someone plays games with us, and that is, I think, where we can take actions. It has been mentioned before, so open source software is something, well, that is open and transparent, and everyone can check it. That also implies that one should contribute to be part of it, sit at the table. So we see open source endeavors in Europe, so very strict and simple. For example, we have the Eclipse activities, also have other activities. The more we can activate our ecosystem that shares our values, so what you just mentioned, the better we can stay in control and will not be overruled by others. Then I think this thorough governance in neutral organizations like IDSA could also prevent us from someone taking the majority and doing harm to the ecosystem. So, happy to have a very long discussion on that.
Any comments? Thank you, Lars. Any comments?
May I add one thing? Fear of sharing data is what is impacting the data economy. This is valid also inside Europe. Economical actors are not sharing data because they are fearing that the competition will benefit from it. But at the end, the big things that people need to focus on is the ownership, is the sovereignty of data. As soon as you know what data are you going to share, what is the value, and how this can be used, you are keeping the control, and you are going to go over fear. Let me just add one small thing. What is one of the hugest valuable market in the world? The army. But anybody selling army to the others? You know? Depends on how you keep the control, not just having fear. We need to define rules. What kind of data we can share? What kind of data we can share? Having the control, all this makes business opportunities. It's not a real risk. Depends on the data.
Okay, thank you, Giuseppe. Lars, you have.
So a completely different thought is in the last years, we have heard a lot of attempts from Europe to do something to fight the hyperscalers or fight someone. But it makes things mostly worse because we lock ourselves in a very small market, and at the end, in order to what Giuseppe just said, the only option for businesses or even individuals to do something like sharing data is to go to the enemy. So therefore, I think we need to take our fate in our hands to build software and products that are hopefully become competitive on the global market.
Okay. Günther?
One statement from my side. Europe is changing. There are a lot of national parties coming in the countries, also in Austria. They are discussing of building borders, but we are working on data economy, and that's great because data has no borders. And that's an absolutely great chance, a big chance that we can work against these ideas of reinventing borders in using data and using a new microphone. Using data in building international use cases, building international businesses to show the world that it brings more value when we work together.
Thank you. Any comment from a ministerial point of view? John? No? Okay, thank you. Any other comment or question from the audience so far? Now you've got the opportunity. Okay.
I have a follow-up question, if I may.
Yes? Welcome.
That's about the Dome project. Did I see correctly, did I hear correctly, that one of the aims of Dome is that data remain in the EU?
Yes, indeed.
Is that correct? And why is that? Why EU and why not international?
Because the primary sponsor is the Commission.
Okay.
Honestly speaking, this is the point. We are going to, actually we have focus. Dome is not about data sharing, it's about boosting any cloud business, including the data sharing, okay? And this is already a huge perimeter if you take a look at this. While we have the capability to sell service outside the EU borders, we are going to onboard European companies at first, because the first mandatory requirement that we have is that all the companies need to comply with the European regulation. So data should stay in Europe, and we are trying to boost the European operators' economy. This is the point.
Okay, thank you. Any other question, comment, whatever? I have prepared additional questions, of course, for that case. So, gentlemen, be prepared. I would love to ask Lars at first, what are the main obstacles to global data sovereignty standards, and is international consensus achievable? I guess the microphone is not doing very well. Thank you. Again?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
That it's achievable, so otherwise I would quit my job. So I think it's also like inevitable. So also partly responding to your question before, I believe in this entrepreneurial spirit of data economy, and so we all know these internet memes, like what has been promised to us in the 70s, which has not become reality today. So I would like to see at least a bit of that. So I think data economy needs to build on much more data sharing. We also see that, well, the numbers differ, but like something between 80 and 98% of the data is not shared. And on the other hand side, we are talking about AI, and that AI comes to an end with all the training data that is like publicly available. So, okay, where are we heading? So, do we have a bright future or not? And therefore, we should do our best. And therefore, we need global standards. Otherwise, we neglect on the amount of data and the amount of players. And then we will see if all the players behave or not.
Yeah, and bringing that from my perspective to an international point of view, we're talking about have international perspective. That's the topic of the panel here, partnerships driving data sovereignty. From a business point of view, we're talking about global supply chains, we're talking about internationalization, globalization, and so on. So we need to cover these requirements, of course. So next question. Yeah?
This time,
Yes, please.
okay, thank you very much. I would like to jump on that, and of course we hear a lot about private business, business opportunity, entrepreneurship, as you know, and also from that world. So I definitely can see the difference between business and business opportunities, and how governments act, because coming from another DNA in other environment. However, I think we should not forget that there's also significant social benefits in unlocking data. So that's, I think, a clear reason for governments not to facilitate business, but also to look to themselves and say, what social benefits can we generate by unlocking the value of data? I think, at least for us, it's a very important additional aspect next to business, and I think it's true, of course, you can find solutions. A very easy one, and maybe a small one, is think about public transport in cross-border regions, like in Flanders and Ireland in Belgium. But of course, if you think it through, you can think about a lot of applications in the social domain. Hence, and building on what you just said, if we talk about creating the new internet, then and there are social benefits, there's definitely a role, which was in my pitch, for governments to take the lead and to create a framework and create a reliable minimum standardization. I think we talked also about that. A reliable minimum standardization on which business can jump and definitely will jump. But we need to provide that minimum framework of standardization where business can say, okay, now we believe it's going to happen, it's happening everywhere in Europe, these are the references. If I invest, it's not for nothing, but I can build on that and build a business on that. So on the question, can we create global/European standards? Yes. Do governments have a role to play? Yes. Is it time to act on that and make choices? Definitely from today onwards.
Okay, thank you, John. Any comments or questions in the meantime? Peter.
So I just want to pick up on this point that a couple of people have made about the willingness to share data. And you talk about technical structures, frameworks, etc., to give the data owner or the data provider confidence. But how many of you work for a company? A lot of you. Sometimes you don't have the authority to make these decisions. You say, oh, this looks like a legal question. I have to talk to the counsel, the general counsel. Or, so you have inside the organization this question of technical semantic organizational or even legal interoperability operating, where somebody says, I'm not even going to answer the question because I never get an answer for legal, at least within a year. So why would I bother? So no, I'm not going to share my data. So you need to make it very easy. You need to make it very easy, very sort of a small, tiny step that's safe for somebody to make a small data sharing step to get them involved in a data space and share the data for a specific purpose. And then to give them the ability to, okay, maybe I do the second thing, and maybe I do the third thing. But to ask them up front, say, oh, you can share and you have to pick up, there are 1,000 use cases in the consent form, and you make all the choices. This is going to push people away. So I think we have to consider the human factor of the person who's going to take decisions as they think about sharing, because it's not always being done at an organizational level. So I just throw that out as an idea, throw that out as something that maybe it's a human, it's the human factors design of our data spaces and our legal frameworks and so on. So just something to make it possible. The frameworks are there, but you're not going to, the individual data owner is not going to be able to assess or rely on the technical frameworks. So it's just a reality.
Okay, thank you. One last question, because I see we are running out of time. I give it to all of you. How can organizations comply with data localization laws without excessive costs or reduced efficiency? Has anybody got an idea? Günther.
First of all, we should know what they're speaking about. Actually, the last 6 months, the European Union developed 21 acts. I almost know no company who is knowing that these acts they have to fulfill. That's the first thing. In Austria, the Data Act will be in place by September. There are not that many companies that know that it is going to be in place in September in action. Like the GDPR. We started to implement and freaking out about the GDPR 1 month before it was in action. So the same here. I think when we show the companies a lot of translation work, there's also a big possibility to use these acts. There's a sense why we put these acts in place, and I can make a business out of this act. Same as GDPR, and you use GDPR in the right way. It's a great tool to make new businesses. The Data Act, it's a great tool to make new businesses. We have few companies out there who know that, who are prepared, but we do less translation work, we have do less awareness, and that's what we, as a company of mine, DIO, for example, are working on.
Okay, thank you. I'm a logistics person. I think we're just in time. Thank you, gentlemen, and big applause to the